3 years ago, I told this audience about my daughter Rachel, who I lost to depression when she was 18. It was 15 years ago then, 18 now. It was the first time that I had spoken about Rachel's suicide publicly. And I remember Brandon and Garen telling me that it would be okay if tears came, that I was in a safe place and that I was among people who would understand. And so if the tears showed up, it would be okay. And it was. When suicide takes someone you love, condolences tend to come with an additional offering. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Now, I know these are good, well-meaning people who are trying to say something helpful, something they think you need to hear. But I remember thinking that it felt strange, and not good strange. You don't hear people say that when your child is diagnosed with cancer. You don't hear people say that when your child is claimed by cancer. For all the refreshing openness we have about mental health these days, there's still this judgment hanging out there that suggests you could have fixed it if you just tried hard enough. As if patients and caregivers, parents and partners aren't already tearing ourselves apart, trying to figure out what, if anything, we could have done differently. I think all of us, in one way or another, know the feeling. For all of our love and support, we couldn't save someone. Even those of us who are experts in related fields, men and women of science, for all our knowledge, all our power, we couldn't save someone. Rachel needed a miracle in medicine to save her from her depression. She needed a breakthrough, and there wasn't one. When I look back, I realize I've spent most of my life chasing miracles, an endless, relentless search for breakthroughs before it's too late. That's why we built Wellcome Leap, because we need more breakthroughs faster. Because there are a lot of people out there who need a miracle and someone to deliver it. 3 years ago, we told you about a $50 million program designed to answer that call. For all the Rachels, for somebody's Rachel. We had just begun. The program utilized all of the best of the Wellcome Leap model, a proven model that stacks the odds in favor of breakthroughs. Programs start with an ambitious, testable goal and an aim to demonstrating something at convincing scale. We network together diverse disciplines, multiple organizations across country borders to create a global orchestra with a strong conductor so that we can utilize all of the best network effect and collaborative science to try and get to an answer faster. And then we generate a sense of urgency and momentum, move fast and iterate a lot. Now, these three principles allow us to intersect basic science with a clear problem, one that matters, to get more breakthroughs more consistently and faster. So 3 years ago, we had an idea Today, we have line of sight on something new. Line of sight to impact. Today is for all the Rachels. Susanne.
Unfortunately, many of us here have been too close to depression. Either you've experienced it in your own lives or someone you loved has. And if you're one of those people, I am sure you've wished for a way to shorten the time to recovery, to stop that endless cycle of guessing and checking to see which treatment is going to work, to find something, anything, that can help before it's too late. I know I have. So, in the multi-channel Psych program, we built something to make that dream a reality, a system that allows us to identify the most effective treatment for each person with depression as quickly as possible in a way that's economically sustainable. So let me show you what I mean. Imagine that a young woman comes into my psychiatry office to get help for her first ever episode of depression. And we don't know this at the beginning, but unfortunately, she's going to be one of those unlucky people, 1 out of 3, who have difficult to treat depression. So if I'm following standard practice guidelines, I would first recommend cognitive behavioral therapy, and if that doesn't work, then try an SSRI, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, followed by switching to a different drug class. And even if that third drug didn't work, she would need to try and fail an additional 4th drug before she could be referred to an advanced care option like transcranial magnetic stimulation or deep brain stimulation. And each of these treatment trials, each of these rolls of the dice can take between 2 to 6 months. So, let's add up the actual time that this takes. Even on an extremely optimistic and accelerated timeline, it would take her a minimum of 252 days to get through all of these failed prerequisite treatments and finally complete a successful course of transcranial magnetic stimulation for her difficult-to-treat depression. 252 days. But now, let's look at that treatment journey when accompanied by the decision support system that we've built in MC Psych. By using diagnostic tests with its predictive algorithms, after completing only 1 course of ineffective treatment with an SSRI, we were able to skip all of the treatments that wouldn't work for this patient and get her rapidly to the one that does in 91 days. That's over 5 months of depression eliminated. 5 months can be the difference between life and death. And Regina and I have talked about Rachel's treatment journey, so I know the timelines. There was 1 year in between Rachel's diagnosis with depression and when she died from depression after multiple rounds of treatment. So this 5-month acceleration that you see, that could have saved her life. So this is why what I'll show you today is for all the Rachels out there and their loved ones. So let me show you what our system is doing. Here's another way of looking at how standard of care works right now. It's a simple decision tree. And the only way we can get from one of these treatment nodes to the other is by trying something and seeing if it works or doesn't. It's a linear process with a defined order. And this is all that a human can do right now. But this is the kind of decision-making a human can do with MC Psych supported care. You see the complexity, right? But we need that computer system, the best in its class, to help us do this, to do something a human can't do, which is to start with data, as you can see in this zoomed-in window here, in this case, some symptom scales that we're asking the patient to fill out, and investigate all of the possible parameters of the diagnostic and treatment trajectory to find the shortest path through that complex web to get to the treatment that works for the patient. We built this complex decision tree with a hard-won, tailored collection of purpose-built data sets and models collected during the MC Psych program in the 3 years that we've had. And what you're seeing up here represented is models from a variety of different biomarkers, things like EEG, like fMRI, symptom scales, cognitive tests, even a computer game. And then taking all of that and seeing how they predict outcomes of many different types of treatments spanning the range. But the secret sauce is that we can then combine these models together with our world-class AI tool suite, allowing us to deliver precision care to single patients in an economically viable way. And what this data set and set of models is now representing is over 37 million people with depression. Now, the benefits that we're seeing from this are not an anecdote from that single patient example. This scales. We've run large-scale Monte Carlo simulations to measure how patient trajectories compare with MC Psych decision support and without. And on average, patients recover 72 days faster and also have a net reduction in their cost of care of over $1,500. So if you scale this to the approximately 20 million depressed patients in the United States per year, this leads to 4 million depressed years eliminated and $32 billion in savings to the healthcare system in a single year. Yeah. And you get it, right? This decision support tool not only helps patients across a population, but it can deliver that help in an economically viable way. And why that matters is because if we reduce costs, that means that more people who need it can actually get treatment. So I want to show you what this would look like in the clinic when fully realized using the timelines from the example patient that I showed you earlier. This is actually a screenshot from the MC Psych decision support system actually working on real data inputted for a mock patient, Ms. Alex Lopez. So this is, I want to stress, this is running in real time. This is not just a mock-up. This is something that works. And these are the actual outputs that you would see if you were using this in the clinic using the widely used Epic interface. And if we zoom in on the center, this is where things start getting really interesting and start looking different than they do in today's psychiatry office. Because we have a list of treatment options, along with the percentage likelihoods that those treatments are going to work, and not just for the general population, specifically for Ms. Lopez. And we also have a recommendation from our system, MC Psych. Now, what it's saying right here is interesting. It's saying we don't yet have enough information to decide which treatment will be best with her. Instead, it's saying, you know what? The first thing we need to do is get a diagnostic test. And I'll tell you which one is the best one to get based on her demographics, which we know from her medical health record, as well as a very simple scale that almost all of you, I'm sure, do in your primary care doctor's office. It's called the PHQ-9. And usually your doctor just throws it in a drawer and doesn't do anything with it. And what we want to do is we want to get that information and data, put it back into the system, and use it to deliver precision care. So after getting that information, the system sends her an alert, and then she can then log into her patient portal and do those online computer tasks right then and there. Think of it like you would a rapid strep test in the pediatrician's office. The results then immediately get fed back into the system, giving us new real-time readouts of how likely Alex is going to be to respond to each treatment. And I'm getting more confident in my recommendations, but in this case, unfortunately, I'm getting more confident that her depression is going to be difficult to treat. You can see the percentages are going from 41 to 35% down. that she's likely to respond to cognitive behavioral therapy or an SSRI. And on this part of the complex decision tree that we've now moved on to, the MC Psych system again recommends that we consider getting more data, in this case, a set of scales that our Helsinki team in Finland came up with. And also it's saying you can potentially think about starting an SSRI, but then Ms. Lopez gets to consider, is this something I want to do, given the fact that it's only got a 1 in 3 shot of working. But in this case, she says, yeah, despite the side effects, I would like to try it because my psychic pain is so intense right now. So she decides to try it, hoping for relief. And unfortunately, when she comes back a month later, she did not respond to the SSRI. And the additional scales that we've done add more confidence that she's at high risk for difficult to treat depression. But now we can actually speed things up for her, because instead of guessing and checking, she can skip the treatments that aren't going to work for her, and we refer her right away to an interventional psychiatry clinic. And by getting an fMRI before the appointment, we can determine ahead of time using models developed by another One Mind Rising Star awardee who's somewhere in the audience, Connor Liston. There's Connor, who is also a performer in the MC Psych program. Congrats, Connor. And using those models, determine ahead of time that transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, is the most likely treatment to work for Alex. And in this case, it was successful in only 91 days, right? That's 5 months and maybe a whole life saved. Now, we were able to do all of this in 3 years because we had a bold goal that was testable and measurable. And in 2021, we bet $50 million over 3 years to see if we could build a true precision psychiatry framework by stitching together multiple individual models into a modular, evolvable model of models framework to get this done. And now, in 2025, we have a new AI-enabled clinical decision support system that can match the right treatment to the right patient based on their own personal data or recommend the best diagnostic test if there isn't enough information to make a decision. We also need a network effect to get this done. Teams working together to build something that they couldn't individually do on their own. In this case, when a lot of the clinical neurobiologists looked at this problem, all they saw was the complexity. And many thought that this approach wouldn't work at all for psychiatric illness because the brain is just too complex. But fortunately, our Vanderbilt computer science team didn't get that memo and instead took a new view of the problem, grounded in their expertise in the fields of autonomous vehicles and cyber-physical systems, and really seeing all this complexity for what it is. Multiple streams of information that need to be integrated to make a decision, just like you need to get your self-driving car out of the way of the tractor that swerved into your lane. Now, this was not easy, right? We had to iterate a ton and move like hell to get this done in 3 years. We had 4 different boot camps throughout the program because the computer scientists shown with the pink arrows needed to sit next to the neurobiologists in blue to figure this out. And in year 2, we call that the messy middle. Everything looked like it was a bust. Because it's easy to talk about using AI tools for precision psychiatry, but there's a critical execution gap. And to overcome that, we needed to not only generate all the underlying clinical data and the models to support the predictions by running all those purpose-built clinical trials I showed you, but we also needed to develop novel methods for model integration, establish critical computational infrastructure, not to mention all the important legal and regulatory hurdles that needed to be done all in 3 years. But then we got it. This is the moment we all knew that we'd made the seemingly impossible thing a reality. But it happened in real time. Look at that. right? This is how we go from idea to impact. But our journey's not done. That's what it means to be all in on a mission, to have a sense of urgency that we can't waste any time. Now we do the hard work to get this over the line and into the hands of patients and providers so that no one else needs to needlessly suffer that interminable treadmill of guessing and checking and possibly succumbing to fatal depression. We're currently in partnership discussions, and if you're interested in joining these conversations, please see me. Because if you share in this mission, which I know a lot of you do, and want to contribute your expertise to helping us scale, now is the time. All of the impact for real people will be felt past this point, when we scale it and patients have it. A future where no one needs to linger in limbo, rolling the dice with their mental health care.
That's what it looks like when your rising star has risen. So look, we built Wellcome Leap to harness the urgency, the global collaboration, and the focus that humanity needs. We are all in on the big challenges, the ones that nobody's solved yet, the urgent challenges, the impossible or the seemingly impossible challenges, the my child needs a miracle challenges. And we're doing it for one big reason, because we need more breakthroughs faster. And with one big unrelenting hope that if we chase down those miracles together, we'll find them so that no one will ever have to hear these words again. Thank you.
Oh. Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.